Beyond the gates, spoilers tease that Bill is lying in a hospital bed, pale against the sterile white sheets, his breathing shallow but steady after the harrowing ordeal that landed him here. The fluorescent lights above cast a cold, unflinching glow across the room, reflecting off machines that beep and hum with mechanical precision. Each monitor tracks his vital signs, and tubes snake from his body, carrying life-saving fluids into his veins. Though his condition has finally stabilized, a lingering fragility remains in every labored inhale. Visitors are few. The scent of antiseptic mingles with the faint trace of flowers left at the bedside, reminders that life persists even in liminal spaces between health and infirmity. Dani's footsteps echo softly as she enters the room, her silhouette framed by the doorway. She pauses, gathering herself on the threshold before stepping forward in measured strides. Her heart tightens with a familiar pang, equal parts relief and sorrow at the sight of the man she once called husband. His brow, damp with perspiration, furrows slightly as he senses her presence. Dani's voice, threaded with tenderness and concern, greets him in a whisper. "Hey, Bill. How are you feeling today?" He turns his head, eyes blinking as if emerging from a dream. A faint smile flickers on his lips, and he murmurs, "Better, much better. Thanks to you." Since the accident, Dani has been a constant at his bedside. She recalls the moment she received the frantic call to terror that had gripped her heart as she rushed to the hospital, adrenaline fueling her through the maze of corridors. The sight at the end of that corridor had nearly undone her. Bill, battered and unconscious, hooked to machines that kept him tethered to life. Guilt had gnawed at her questions of whether their past could have contributed to this, or whether her absence would have changed the outcome. Yet now, watching his chest rise and fall in an even rhythm, she allows herself a measure of hope. With each passing day, Dani has brought small comforts to brighten the sterile environment: a stack of well-worn books he used to love, a framed photograph of their daughters at the beach, the warm scarf she knitted during endless nights of worry. She perches on the edge of his bed, smoothing the sheet over his shoulder. They speak of trivial things: the chirp of birds outside the window, the peculiar flavor of hospital coffee, the gossip from mutual friends, but beneath the surface, every word is charged with emotion. For Dani, these moments are bittersweet reminders of what once was and what might be again, even if their marriage has legally ended. Watching from across the corridor, Hayley's footsteps falter as she rounds the corner. She drags a hospital clipboard against her palm, the papers rattling softly. Her jaw clenches when she sees Dani hunched at Bill's side, her familiar presence burning with unwelcome familiarity. Hayley's chest tightens, a chorus of jealousy and entitlement rises within her. She had arrived at the hospital earlier that morning to find Bill more responsive, and in that instant, her relief had spiraled into one possessive thought: he belongs to me now. Hayley storms into the room without knocking, her entrance splitting the quiet like a blade. Dani straightens at once, her eyes meeting Hayley's in a silent flash of defiance and apprehension. Bill's brow creases as he watches the two women who defined his past and present face off in the cramped hospital space. Hayley's voice, rimmed with accusation, cuts through the air. "What are you doing here, Dani? This isn't your place anymore." Dani's spine stiffens, hurt and resolve warring in her expression. "I'm here because he's my friend and because I care about his health," she replies softly but firmly. She allows herself a moment to study Hayley's posture, shoulders drawn back, chin high, eyes glittering with rage. The legal papers that once severed Dani's role as wife had granted Hayley the title of official spouse, but could they truly erase the history between Dani and Bill? Hayley advances, closing the distance between the chair and the foot of the bed. She leans in, voice low and venomous. "Our marriage certificate gave me rights. I won't tolerate you taking advantage of his weakened state to play the grieving ex." Her words hang in the air, heavy as a verdict. She slides a possessive hand over Bill's forearm as though staking a claim. Bill stirs, discomfort etched on his face. He weakly reaches out for Dani's hand, an anchor in the storm. Hayley notices the gesture and rage flickers across her features. "Don't touch him," she hisses, tugging his hand away. "You're not his wife anymore." Her grip tightens, and in that instant, the frailty of Bill's recovery is threatened by the violent clash of emotions. Dani pushes to her feet, scandalized and hurt. "He's in no condition to be used as a pawn in your jealousy," she retorts, her voice trembling. "We ended things months ago. I'm here as a friend, no more, no less." She gestures toward the door as if to signal her intention to withdraw. Yet something in Hayley's glare pins her in place. Hayley, unable to contain her fury, lunges forward. In a shocking moment of wild abandon, she raises her hand as if to strike Dani across the face. The motion is swift, fueled by possessiveness, but Bill, groggy yet lucid, flinches at the sight. Nurses from the next room and visitors in the hallway rush in at the commotion, drawn by Hayley's shout. A hospital orderly steps between the two women, arms outstretched, his face a mix of shock and indignation. As Hayley's hand hovers in midair, realization crashes over her. The absurdity of striking someone in a hospital room where violence is an offense beyond mere domestic quarrel halts her aggression. She breathes heavily, chest heaving, crimson creeping into her cheeks. Silence descends, broken only by the soft beeping of Bill's monitor. Dani, shaken, gathers her composure. She looks past Hayley at Bill, whose eyes reflect both shame and pain. "We should all calm down," she says, voice gentle yet unyielding. She takes a cautious step toward Bill, offering him a reassuring smile. Hayley, still trembling, steps back as though releasing an invisible tether. Later, after the hospital staff has diffused the situation and escorted Hayley out with a stern warning, Dani remains by Bill's side. The air hangs heavy with unrealized conflict, and Dani reaches out to smooth his hair, her touch light. Bill's hand closes around hers, gratitude shining in his weary gaze. "Thank you," he whispers. Dani's eyes glisten with tears. Behind closed double doors among the maze of private rooms and nurses' stations, word of Hayley's outburst has rippled through the hospital rumor mill. Staff exchange glances when passing Bill's room, some sympathetic to his plight, others questioning the volatility of his domestic life. In the sterile hallway, a head nurse clips a formal notice onto the bulletin board. The hospital's fallen standards require a zero-tolerance policy for violence on its premises. Hayley's action has left an indelible mark beyond the confines of the room, jeopardizing her reputation and perhaps her standing in Bill's eyes. Inside the room once more, Dani settles into the chair beside Bill's bed, unfolding her legs and setting her bag on the floor. She pulls from it a worn journal, its pages full of memories both joyful and painful, the girls' birthdays, family vacations, late-night talks by the fireplace. She hesitates, then opens to the last entry, a letter she'd begun the night she left Bill's home. In careful script, she had confessed her lingering love, the hope she still carried for them, even as she resolved to move on. Bill watches her, curiosity overcoming his exhaustion. "That's mine, isn't it?" he whispers. Dani looks up, catches his gaze, and nods. "I kept it for you," she admits. "I thought maybe one day you'd want to read it." Bill attempts a laugh, the sound rough but genuine. The corners of his mouth lift as he motions for the journal. "Read it to me," he says. As Dani reads aloud, her voice soft and steady, the narrative flows back to earlier days, the first hesitant steps of courtship, the laughter echoing through sunlit kitchens, the quiet solidarity in shared hardships. The hospital walls fade, supplanted by memories of warmer times. Bill's eyes close as her words weave a tapestry of their shared history, a reminder of the bond that once held them together so tightly. When she pauses, nearing the end of her entry, tears brim in her eyes. She looks at Bill, who blinks through a mix of emotion, regret, nostalgia, longing. For a moment, it seems they might reach for each other, rekindle something long dormant. But the beeping of the pump and the faint creak of the door startle them back to the present. Dani bookmarks the page, closes the journal, and places it gently on Bill's bedside table. "You should rest now," she murmurs, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. Bill nods, the weight of vulnerability settling in. Dani stands, smoothing the folds of her blouse as she prepares to leave. At the door, she pauses, glancing back at him. Her voice trembles with unresolved longing. "I'll be back tomorrow." The corridor outside is hushed. Dani walks down the hall, each step echoing her internal conflict, devotion battling the boundaries Hayley insists upon, the pull of maternal instinct for her children wrestling with the destiny she once envisioned with Bill. Unseen, a whiteboard near Nurse Station 7 records Hayley's threat: "No unauthorized visits" by Dani. The note, scrawled in authoritative block letters, underscores the personal feud that has spilled over into official policy. Meanwhile, Hayley stands in the visitor waiting area, fists clenched around a steaming cup of hospital coffee. The acrid aroma does little to soothe her. She recalls every nerve-jangling motion, Dani's soft touch, Bill's grateful smile, the way he still responded to her kindness. Anger simmers within her. She mutters under her breath, promising herself that Dani's days of intrusion are numbered. As dusk settles outside the tall windows, the hospital shifts into a quieter rhythm. Overhead, the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of rose and amber. Nurses file down the halls on their evening rounds, patients murmur behind closed doors, and machines pulse gently in the dimming light. In Bill's room, the shadows grow longer, wrapping around him like a cocoon. He drifts in and out of sleep, Dani's words echoing in his mind, stirring emotions long suppressed. Somewhere between consciousness and dreams, Bill's heart wanders through the corridors of memory. He sees Dani laughing at a summer barbecue, their daughters chasing each other in the garden. He hears Hayley's voice, forceful and insistent, reminding him of the life they now share. Caught between past and present, he wonders where his heart truly belongs. His hand tenses around the sheet, and when morning comes, the world will have shifted yet again. But for now, as the night deepens and the hospital breathes a softer lullaby, the fragility of human connection stands illuminated under the glow of the stand. The stage is set for choices that will ripple across lives, for loyalties tested, and for love to be both a sanctuary and a battlefield. In this delicate interlude, the confines of the hospital room become a microcosm of a larger drama, one where vulnerability and desire collide, and where every heartbeat edges Bill closer to a destiny neither he nor the women in his life can fully predict. Bill's recovery in the days that follow becomes a quiet battleground, the hospital corridors rife with an uneasy tension that whispers of defiance and dread. Word of Hayley's ban on Dani's visits has spread like wildfire among the staff. Posters and memos remind visitors of visiting hours and conduct, but none mention the personal feud that drove Hayley to invoke such a measure. Still, the hospital administration, eager to avoid liability, quietly enforces the rule: no unauthorized visits from Dani. Nurses exchange sympathetic glances when they see Dani loitering by the nurses' station, her watchful eyes lingering on the double doors of Bill's room. Each time she approaches, she is intercepted by a fresh-faced orderly or a scowling security guard, reminding her of the edict. Dani refuses to be deterred. She begins arriving earlier, staking out the hallway like an anxious sentinel. Her every hour seems attuned to Bill's medication schedule, the time the doctor rounds, the moment his pain medication kicks in, the fleeting window when he is most lucid and can muster conversation. She speaks softly to the security staff, weaving a gentle charm around their formality, "I'm just checking on him," she says, her voice threaded with motherly concern rather than marital claim. "I know Hayley has legal standing, but Bill and I share a history and the girls need reassurance." Some guards relent, allowing her a brief glance through the small window beside the door, but none permit entry. Inside his solitary room, Bill stares at the walls blank, clinical, unforgiving. His nights stretch endlessly, haunted by two contrasting images, one of Dani reading from that journal, her voice warm and tender, the other of Hayley's furious glare and commanding presence, a marriage certificate pinned like armor to her chest. Each morning, he presses the call button, pleading, tell Hayley, I want to see Dani." But visitors are mediated, sanitized. Hayley stands at his side, prim and composed, but each time the attending nurse mentions Dani's name, Hayley's lips thin into a vow of silence. Meanwhile, the threat to Dani's daughters looms like an unspoken shadow. At home, incoming calls from school trouble the girls' routine. Teachers, misinformed by Hayley's camp, report that unauthorized visits by their mother's ex could jeopardize their safety plan. The girls' bright-eyed twins named Emma and Claire are forced to drink lukewarm tea from reluctant hands at the principal's office. They plead for their mother's comforting embrace when nightmares wake them at dawn, but counselors recite company policy regarding restraining orders and hospital bans. Dani hears their voices on the phone, stifled behind crackling lines, and her maternal instincts shatter every sense of decorum. One afternoon, Dani stands on the hospital's back terrace, overlooking a manicured courtyard. She holds her phone against her ear, voice low. "They need me, Emma, wet the bed again. Claire can't sleep. You have to let me in, or they'll..." The line goes dead as the receptionist hangs up, citing confidentiality. In that moment, Dani's resolve crystallizes. She will challenge this ban through every legal loophole and emotional plea. She arranges with a lawyer for an emergency hearing, contesting Hayley's informal decree that borders on unlawful exclusion. Dani files for temporary visitation rights, presenting evidence of her daughter's emotional distress and Bill's vulnerability. Simultaneously, Hayley's veneer of control begins to crack. She patrols the corridors with rehearsed composure, but late at night she stands before a foggy bathroom mirror, unhinged by the echo of her own suppressed guilt. She remembers Dani's face, soft yet resolute, and the unquestionable bond that they share. She shakes away the thought, straightens her shoulders, and returns to Bill's room, offering manufactured cheer and reassurance. Bill watches her movements, his eyes haunted. What she offers is dutiful. What he craves is genuine. Tensions reach a crescendo when Dani's legal motion is granted a hearing date a mere 48 hours away. News of the impending courtroom battle sends ripples through both camps. Hayley's attorney dispatches letters warning that any breach of the hospital's no third-party visits policy could result in contempt charges. Dani's legal team, however, points to the absence of any formal restraining order and highlights Bill's expressed desire to see his former wife. The hospital administration, caught between competing legal claims and potential litigation, concedes that only a court can adjudicate the conflict, and for the interim, permits supervised visits in a designated family lounge. That first supervised meeting takes place in a small room down the hall, its walls lined with floral wallpaper and adorned with outdated landscape prints. Dani arrives clutching a photograph album of the girls, her eyes bright yet wary. Bill, escorted by a nurse, wheels himself into the room, face pale but animated. They exchange a tentative smile, part relief, part sorrow, before Dani gently places the album in his lap. They talk about the girls. Emma has taken up drawing, sketching flowers and butterflies. Claire obsessively builds Lego castles that spill across the living room floor. Bill's face lights up at each anecdote, but his eyes flicker with frustration at the enforced distance, the sterile barrier that separates them. Hayley storms into the corridor minutes later upon hearing of the supervised accord. She had been waiting outside, armed with fresh objections from the hospital legal department. She bursts into the family lounge, ready to lob accusations, but halts mid-sentence at the sight of Bill genuinely smiling for the first time since his injury. His laughter, hoarse yet real, slices through her anger and forces her to confront the longing she herself cannot fully claim. She watches Dani lean forward and brush a stray curl from Bill's forehead, a gesture that transcends friendship and finds that her righteous indignation wavers. Yet Hayley's determination reasserts itself. She corners Dani in the hallway after the visit, pressing a legal notice into her trembling hand. "You have 12 hours to withdraw your motion, or I take you to court for harassment," she threatens, eyes fierce. "As long as you push this, you risk our daughter's stability, Bill's recuperation, and your own reputation." Dani's breath catches accusations that threaten her maternal bond, the very core of her identity. She glances down at the notice-typed words that feel like chains before shredding it between her fingers. "I won't stand down," she says, voice low. "Not now, not ever." In the days that follow, media interest sparks around the hospital standoff. A local news crew pads silently along the corridor, their camera lens tracing the silhouettes of visitors and staff. Photographs emerge online of Dani's lawyer stepping through the glass doors, of Hayley glancing over her shoulder, uneasy at the prying eyes. Rumors swirl that the daughters might be called to testify, that custody concerns could be reignited. For Dani, whose world has centered on her children since birth, the prospect of legal scrutiny feels like an exhumation of every misstep she ever made. But she steels herself, leaning on love rather than fear, determined that the truth of her bond with Bill and their daughters will shine through. Meanwhile, Bill's condition shows incremental improvement. His physical therapy sessions grow more ambitious, first a simple grip exercise, then assisted steps in the hallway, and finally, an unsteady but hope-filled walk to the window overlooking the courtyard. Each victory carries the bittersweet reminder that progress comes at the price of pain and exhaustion. Hayley, ever the dutiful partner, applauds each feat. But when Bill is alone, he closes his eyes and pictures Dani's encouraging smile, the way her voice softened his panic the moment he awoke in ICU. Amid this turmoil, Emma and Claire are caught in the crossfire. Their school counselor arranges a family conference, inviting both Dani and Hayley to discuss the girls' emotional welfare. Hayley arrives first, poised and defensive. Dani follows, bruised but resolute. In the small conference room, the girls sit between them, clutching a shared stuffed bear. Emma's voice quivers as she says, "Mommy, I just want you both to get along." Claire adds, "I don't like it when you argue." The simplicity of their plea cuts through every legal argument, every marriage certificate, every signed affidavit. In that moment, Dani and Hayley lock eyes and perceive each other not as adversaries, but as two mothers shaped by love for the same girls and devotion to the same man. The counselor suggests co-parenting sessions, mediation to establish boundaries that serve the children's best interests. Both women begrudgingly agree, recognizing that legal victories ring hollow if they fracture their daughters' hearts. On the eve of the court hearing, Bill experiences a fever spike. Hayley, frantic, calls in a rapid response team, fear replacing her earlier confidence. As the nurses swarm to his side, Hayley's composure crumbles. She paces the hallway, whispering prayers. Dani arrives, summoned by the hospital social worker, and Hayley, through tear-filled eyes, locks gaze with her. Without a word, she steps aside, allowing Dani past the chain of rubber-gloved hands. Dani kneels beside Bill's bed, placing a cool hand on his forehead and murmuring, "I'm here." In that instant, the hospital's sterile walls seem to fade, replaced by the warmth of two souls united in care. The next morning, Bill stabilizes. His fever breaks, and his strength returns in gentle waves. The court hearing proceeds as scheduled, but in a quiet courtroom devoid of the earlier tension. The judge, noting the sisters' mediation agreement and Bill's explicit wish to see Dani, grants her temporary visitation rights and orders a structured schedule that ensures Hayley's role as legal spouse is respected while acknowledging Dani's maternal bond and emotional support. The ruling is praised by both attorneys as a compromise, a blueprint for their newly reconfigured family dynamic. As Dani exits the courthouse, she is greeted by her daughters Emma with a hastily drawn, "I love you, Mommy" sign, Claire clutching a bouquet of daisies. They run into her arms, and Hayley watches from a distance, eyes glistening with unshed tears. She steps forward and places a gentle hand on Dani's shoulder. "Thank you," she says quietly, her earlier hostility tempered by empathy. For them. Dani nods, and for the first time, they share a genuine a fragile but hopeful bridge between past and present. Back at the hospital, Bill is moved to a step-down unit, his rehabilitation entering a new phase. Dani and Hayley coordinate visits, mornings with Dani, afternoons with Hayley. The schedule is strict but functional. In the mornings, Dani reads to Bill from the girls' latest art projects. Afternoons, Hayley brings photographs of their budding household together. Bill watches the pendulum swing, his heart stretched thin yet buoyed by the unity it fosters. Months later, Bill takes his first unaided steps in the therapy gym. As he crosses the polished floor, he looks toward the gallery of family portraits hung on the wall, his daughters beaming in a single frame, Dani smiling against the sunlight, Hayley standing proudly at his side. He realizes that the road to healing has been paved not by the erasure of former loves, but by the weaving together of disparate threads into a single tapestry. In the weeks that follow, Dani hosts a small celebration in Bill's hospital room, cake, balloons, and the blossoming hope of a new beginning. Hayley assists in setting up, her once rigid posture softened by collaboration. The twins giggle as they high-five both maternal figures, caught in the wonder of unity they feared lost. Bill, seated at the head of the celebration, raises a paper cup of punch. "To family," he says, voice steady and heartfelt. As the group toasts, the hospital lights above seem to glow a warmer hue. Outside the window, cherry blossoms release their petals on a gentle spring breeze, each flutter a symbol of renewal. The day is filled with light laughter and shared memories of past joys and future promises. Bill's journey to full recovery lies ahead, but in this moment, he knows that whatever challenges await, he is surrounded by unwavering dedication, love in multiple forms, and a newfound kinship that transcends legal titles. The tapestry of their lives has been rewoven, not as a neat patchwork of old and new, but as a living canvas that knits together the threads of history, hope, and healing. And though the road ahead may twist through unforeseen trials, they face it armed with the most powerful cure of all, unity born from compassion, compromise, and the enduring belief that love, in its myriad shapes, can conquer even the fiercest of storms.